So today's video is a little bit different. I'm going to show you how I find the information and how to mix up the colors and all the tips and tricks I use for mixing up custom colors. In this case, I'm going to show you how to make Charvin Ocean Blue and Golden Permanent Violet Dark. With these two colors, we should encounter all of the different scenarios when we go into making these custom colors. Hopefully you find this useful. Michelle from Grateful Creations mentioned this color, and I love blue, and I didn't have this blue, or I haven't made this blue, and anybody that watches my channel knows that I love blue, so of course I had to make this color. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to make this color. So I use the Liquitex gloss medium, and I fill the bottom of this cup usually, sometimes a little bit more than that depending on how hard it is to suspend. And then I'll add a little bit of Floetrol. I put a couple of drops of GAC 800 in here. In order to know which colors to mix together, we can go over to Jerry's Artorama. There we can then type in Charvin, and it will pull up what's available, and it's that extra fine color that I'm looking for here. So you go ahead and click on that, and then on Jerry's Artorama, you just scroll down past some of the pictures, and they always have in the middle a thing called Open Color and or Size Chart. It's the first one, and you click here, you download it, and then go ahead and open this file. And this will have the brochure. This has some information, blah blah blah, about how awesome they are. But let's look for our color, and it's down here at the bottom. We're looking for Ocean Blue. English is the second one, I guess. So here it is. It tells you what's needed to make this color, and here it's PB29 and PG7. So we'll just need those two colors, and then we'll use this swatch later to make sure we have the right ratio of those two colors together. PB29 is ultramarine, and this is Amsterdam, and you find it here on the side. PG7, which is phthalo green. So I'm going to use Liquitex today, and you find that information here, PG7, or pigment green 7. So I have everything that I need to make this color with just this information here. And you can basically make any of these colors if you have this information. So the first thing I'm going to add is the blue. I always start with a little, see what the ratio is I need to get the color, and then I'll add more. But you don't want to overdo it. This one looked a little greener, but ultramarine blue is kind of pale. Okay, so we're going to need some more green. That's about 50-50. Reference your picture here to see what you need. It needs just a smidge more green. And then I'm going to add more because now that I know the ratios, I can add what I need to make the whole container. Always kind of scrape it on the side to get rid of the chunks. So you see how much paint I add, it's not a ton. And then I just fill the rest with Floetrol. Even though I've evaporated this Floetrol, I left it open on the bench stirring it for a couple of days. It's still pretty thin batch for some reason. So we're going to have to add a lot of the heavy gloss gel to make this the right consistency. Alright, so you can see it's barely 2 seconds. 1, 2. 1, 2. which is nowhere near what I need. So we add this heavy gloss gel. This one happens to be golden, and maybe it's extra heavy gloss gel. It's way too thick to actually use from the can, or you get chunks all clumpy in here, so I put it in a container and I add Floetrol to it, and I mix it up for like a day until it's nice and smooth and there's no chunks. That way when I add them to my paints, there's no chunks, so if I'm using it right away, I don't have to worry about letting the chunks disappear. So next time I would buy regular gloss gel, but I have an entire bucket of this heavy gloss gel, so that's why I have this side container here. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 2, 3, which is okay for a split cup. And since I don't know what I'm going to be using this for, I'm going to go ahead and leave this, especially because Amsterdam paints tend to thicken after they sit for a little while. If it was a different brand, then I probably would add a little bit more. But I happen to know that these kind of get a little thicker. I might add a little bit more since I know that. And it's a little pale because I just added the Floetrol. It'll darken up as it sits. But there you go. Now we have a new custom color that I didn't own a few minutes ago. And you can make so many colors this way. Okay, so the second color we're going to make is the Permanent Violet Dark from Golden that you can't really buy anymore. So Golden kind of breaks the system. You have to go to goldenpaints.com, click the second one for the pigments, and you should get this chart. If not, you're on the wrong page. So we'll select Heavy Body, and then you just scroll below and it will list all the colors. And this part works the same. You just find your color, and it's way down at the bottom for this one. There it is. And so you can then see that you need these two pigments, PR122 and PB60, and so we can get started with just that information. Read that here, PB60, and I have a Winsor & Newton Indanthrene blue that I like better because it's not as thick, but I can't seem to find that one, so we're going to use anthraquinone, PR Pigment Red 122, which is many names. It's Rose Madder, Magenta. So Sohos don't really have the pigments on the bottle, which is the one thing I don't like about the Soho pigments. And Rose Madder is a little deeper color, and we need a lot of that for this Permanent Violet. So I printed out all the charts because my internet is kind of slow. So here we have Amsterdam, and you'll see the colors below the pigments. Liquitex Basics is not useful in that it doesn't actually show you the colors, so kind of written here what they are. So here's a PR122, and Liquitex is called quinacridone magenta, so they make you work a little harder to find them. And because Soho was the only thing really available when I first started, I have Creative Inspirations and I have all the Soho ones. So we'll just look here. So PR122 right here, and it's called Rose Madder 270. So that's how we would find what's in the Soho. Okay, so for this one we'll do the same thing. The golden paints are incredibly hard to get into solution for me and my wrist, so I can't even get the lids off these things without hurting myself. Ow. This is really ridiculous, actually. Look, I mean, the tube turns. This is... what the heck were these people thinking? One of the many reasons I don't use golden. It's so difficult to use in so many regards, so I like these better. Finally, I got it open. So I've made this color many times, so I kind of know how much to add. So it's about, you don't want to put too much blue because it's mostly the red color, so I'm going to add about that much. No, maybe a little bit more. I want it to be nice and, I want this one to be nice and dark, so I'm going to add a little bit more. So this is a see-through quinacridone magenta, or rose madder as it's called here. They're kind of transparent, so you need a lot more, and this anthraquinone blue is very strong. Oh, I forgot to use the mixer. Oh well, I forgot to use the mixer. Add just a little bit of Floetrol. This takes forever. The factory that makes a lot of these pigments actually burnt down right at the middle of the pandemic. I guess they made most of them, so it was really hard to find these blues, but they should be coming back soon, so there's not really much chance of these not being available forever. It's just kind of a temporary setback, unlike the permanent violet dark, which seems to be discontinued. So if you can't find this, it'll be available soon. I guess they just have to rebuild the factory or find some other way to make the pigments. So why do I know all this? Because when I first started, it was really hard to find supplies. Like, it was the pandemic already, a year into it, and it was basically impossible to find anything. So I just happened to be researching pigments, and I came across the fire. Oops. So I'm gonna add a lot more of this than I did the blue. Oops. So I actually like my permanent violet dark to be a smidge closer to the blue side, but that's up to you. When you make it yourself, you can vary it a little bit. So I don't actually have a permanent violet dark swatch. So I have these books full of swatches, and if I have a color, I'll put it in here. So later on, like here, you can see that I have Indanthrene from Winsor & Newton and the anthraquinone. So later on I can, if I ever get the real color, sometimes I buy the real color once, like the nickel azel gold from Golden here, and that way I can always color match it, because I'm not going to buy these expensive ones more than once. So I put them in here. Alright, so that just happened to come out pretty much perfect on the first try. What are the chances of that? So you can see that's pretty much what permanent violet dark looks like. Maybe I should have made it just a little bit more of it, but because it's golden, it's really hard to add more. I'll just add less Floetrol. And it'll look kind of pink because the Floetrol makes it a lot lighter, but after it sits for a while, it will start to deepen up a little bit. So make sure you have as much paint and the color. Make sure you have as much paint and the color you want before you add the Floetrol, because I can't really go back and add more now very easily, or there'll be chunks in there. So I'm just going to stir it a little bit. So this is going to be like 2 seconds as well. So we need our handy dandy heavy gloss, or just buy gloss, don't buy heavy gloss. And so if you haven't evaporated out your Floetrol like I did, you probably need even more of this. So this is why the wandering straight pours that I do, you have to have like 4-second consistency, and I'm using so much of this that I have to buy some more. It's just not very practical to do during the summer when it becomes kind of fluid-like. So I really don't think these are worth doing during the summer for me. So I'll have to wait till like November, October before I try these again. Otherwise it just uses too much of this. Oops. So 1, 2, 3. So that's about 3. 1, 2, 3. It's just a little more. I like it to be at least 3.5. And because I have a little bit more room to add the Floetrol to, and the Floetrol's thin, I'm going to add just a little bit more. Normally I would have used the mixer, but because I forgot, we're just going to stir it. Alright, I can't make colors the day I want to use them like other people. I can make like 1 or 2 colors a day max, because it just hurts my wrist too much, so I can't do it. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I can do this too. You can make a circle really fast and count. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So it's still at like 3. I'll put one more scoop because we still have a little bit of space for Floetrol. And that will thin it. It's just easier to stir, not filled up to the top. But you see how it stirs in really nicely? Not that hard. If you left it straight from the bottle, this is not stirrable, and sometimes it never suspends, so I've ruined a couple cups of this with adding it directly from the container. So I always try and make sure I make this a night in advance and have it stirred in with the Floetrol. Otherwise I'm in trouble. Okay, so now we have Permanent Violet Dark. And you could go ahead and make a swatch if you didn't have this in your notebook. And that's it. So now you have a color that you can't get your hands on. Easy peasy. And you didn't have to buy a bunch of stuff. You already have. Most people already have a magenta or rose madder, and this one you might have already. So that's how we make our custom colors.